Lucy HANNAN is one of the founders of INFORMACTION. It's a human rights organization that's worked in Kenya's 2008 post-election violence and police killings. Despite working and living in Kenya for close to 30 years, the government refused to renew her work permit when she applied in 2013. She says the government gave her no reason, so she took it to court.
At one stage I was told I was low-hanging fruit because I was visible and very identifiable. I worked with a high-profile human rights organization, INFORMACTION, and I filmed at the Supreme Court. I was filming the Kenyan cases at the ICC, the International Criminal Court.
The court ruled that Lucy's work permit should be renewed. Over the past year, the government has criticized international non-governmental organizations for not hiring enough Kenyans. There are about 8,600 organizations in this sector, which cover everything from education and health needs to environmental issues and human rights. They employ more than 250,000 people. In 2014, the government stopped about 500 civil society organizations from operating in Kenya. It says some had what it calls terrorism links, while others didn't have the right documentation. Last year, it released this circular. It says expatriate workers earn 4 times as much as Kenyans, and some expatriate workers don't have work permits or have obtained them illegally. But the civil society reference group says the government is unfairly targeting these organizations.
The civil society has been the punching bag of this government ever since it came into power. They have a distaste for the civil society because they argue that the civil society put ahead of the rights and welfare of people, victims of post-election violence. We demanded justice as we ought to do.
The Kenyan government has not granted Al Jazeera an interview. IRUNGU HOUGHTON runs the Society of International Development in Kenya, whose staff is all Kenyan. He says while some of the government's claims are exaggerated, it does have some legitimacy.
So there are some expatriates who've been working for 15, 20 years in a country context. And I think the law there is very clear that you are essentially brought in as an expatriate where there is a deficit of skills and competencies, and your responsibility is to build up somebody domestically to be able to take on your position.
Each year there are about 500 new NGOs in Kenya. It's a sector that contributes $800 million annually to the economy. Fahmida, Al Jazeera, Nairobi.